What's up everyone? Today I'm going to discuss 8 pieces of filmmaking equipment I wish I'd added to my camera setup much sooner. I'm not going to mention any cameras or lenses or obvious gear, but rather some smaller niche items which are oddly useful. Without wasting any of your time, let's get into it. Number 1. The Aputure Amaran AL-MX Bicolor Mini LED light. This is one of the more expensive mini LED options, but it really packs a punch and is brighter than you think. It is great to use at weddings for detail shots and rings, or just in any darker environments where you need a little extra punch to get that shot you need. It is bicolor, so matching other lights in your environment is quite easy. It's also battery operated and lasts surprisingly long. It does also have a boost mode for some extra oomph when you need it. The carry case from Aputure is one of the best parts about this light, and I actually use it to store general cables which I carry around in my laptop bag. Number 2, the PolarPro Peter McKinnon version variable ND filter. I've got the 2 to 5 stop version in an 82mm thread size. I wish I had realized earlier how much of a difference a variable ND filter can make to your footage. An ND filter is effectively sunglasses for your camera, which allows you to keep your shooting settings as you want and maintain the correct exposure without having to compromise on your shutter speed or your aperture. I've found this ND filter to give slightly warmer tones to footage, but it is very consistent and I love the look and feel. The protective cover that it comes with is quite useful for traveling with your ND filter on your camera without having to worry about the front of your lens or the ND filter itself getting damaged. I chose the 82mm thread size so that it's quite large and I can use it on any of my lenses. One thing worth mentioning is that the step down rings necessary to continue using this ND filter with lenses with a smaller thread size is that these can be quite finicky, and it is a mission to put it back and forth every time. So if you can, get this filter in the thread size of your largest lens or the lens that you use most often. That way you don't have to worry about the extra filter. Number 3, Pelican cases, particularly the 1550 and 1510. I always secretly judged people with Pelican cases and thought the aesthetic of a camera bag was just so much better. I think I was so wrong here. As you accumulate more and more gear, it becomes important to stay organized and to protect your gear. A Pelican case is by far the best way to do this and gives a really professional look when arriving for client work. You can basically drive a bus over these Pelican cases and your gear will be completely fine. I use a Pelican 1550 with some custom dividers for my main camera gear, and I use a Pelican 1510 for my gimbal and some extra batteries. The 1510 is really great because it comes with a pull-out handle and wheels. Pelican cases are quite expensive, but you can very often find them on Marketplace for exceptionally low prices. A 1510 is also approved as carry-on luggage on pretty much every airline across the world, so you never have to worry about checking in your equipment. A 1550 is not approved in every airline, but you can usually get away with carrying it on almost all domestic flights. Number 4, these SSDs from LaCie, particularly the 500GB size. Solid state drives are really the way to go when it comes to storing footage for projects that you are working on. They are blazing fast and are far less likely to have errors or issues that traditional hard drives typically have. I really like the SSDs from LaCie, particularly the 500GB size, as these are perfect for storing an active project or two. The surprisingly nice thing about LaCie SSDs is that they usually come with a bundled 3 months of Adobe Creative Cloud subscription. So oftentimes it's cheaper to buy a brand new SSD each month than it is to actually pay for an Adobe license. The form factor of the LaCie drives makes storing them exceptionally easy, and they're exceptionally sleek and compact, so these are great to also use as copies for client footage if you need to hand it off to them. You really can never have too much storage. Number 5, any SmallRig cage and their associated accessories. Adding a cage to my camera was one of the best things that I've done, both in terms of protecting the camera and for its modularity. I can now easily transition between vertical and horizontal mounting, and with all the added accessories can easily configure it to my needs. I use a variety of different SmallRig accessories to customize my rig according to my needs for different projects. 2 of my favorites are the SmallRig side handle and the magic arm. Adding a cage to your camera creates a much better feel in the hands, particularly when using the smaller Sony camera bodies. Number 5, dual 512GB SD cards. Changing SD cards mid-shooting is incredibly frustrating, and it can really disrupt the flow of a good shoot. This is particularly crucial at weddings or other live events where you can't necessarily pause the action and ask everyone to reset. Adding two 512GB cards to my camera, recording simultaneously, allows me to shoot pretty much all day without having to worry about changing cards or running out of space for footage. With these cards, I can sometimes shoot multiple projects without having to format them, which if I haven't backed everything up in alternate locations, allows for an extra source of redundancy. Number 7, this dual SD card reader from ProGrade. Following on from SD cards is how I transfer the footage from them. Projects often have multiple cameras and multiple cards involved, so backing up all this content can be an exceptionally time-consuming process. This dual SD card reader allows me to transfer footage from multiple cards at once, significantly speeding up my workflow without having to compromise on transfer speeds. Number 8, the Logitech MX Master 3 mouse. This relates slightly more to the post-production side of things, but investing in a good mouse significantly speeds up all aspects of my workflow and is something I should have invested in much sooner. With customizable shortcuts depending on which program I'm using, this tremendously increases my workflow and allows me to spend more time focusing on the creative side of making content. Simply having a horizontal scrolling wheel and copy-paste shortcut keys saves me at least 10 minutes every time I sit down to work. Over the course of a week or a year, these extra clicks really add up. Thank you for listening to my ramble, and I really hope that these tips and tricks can be useful to you as well. If you want, you can find any of the items mentioned listed in the video description below. Please do not like this video or subscribe to my channel, that would be really bad.